What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. The last couple of hauling videos I've made have been fantastic in their reach and the generation of questions and curiosities about how to use ships like the Whole Sea and even how to get to the Whole Sea using, other ships, smaller ships, because, this thing sitting just above 15.7 million AUEC is no small feat, including, ships like the C2 Hercules or the Caterpillar, the big ships that people want to be able to do more cargo and make more money. So this is actually meant to be as concise a video as I can, sort of addressing a lot of the comments and concerns that I've seen out of those videos. So I hope you guys will like and share this video so that more people can see it and hopefully have a better time in general when it comes to hauling, especially with this sort of troubled Whole Sea and how missions can go or not go if you're struggling with it. And then maybe some just general tips and tricks when you're hauling, ways to avoid pirates, ways to maximize your efficiency, and just in general have a better experience and get to your goals faster. Big thanks to all the people who commented, especially on the last hauling being nerfed or buffed video that went out. I mean, that video is at 15,000 views, which is crazy. This channel is small and growing, and I really appreciate it. Thank you to so many of you who corrected, or rather educated me on it being called deadheading when you are going somewhere empty. That's awesome. I won't forget that. I really appreciate it. And a special shout out to SC Haulers. Not only did they leave a wonderful foray of comments on the video, but they also told me something that I didn't know. For a while now, I've been saying to avoid the submit button for fear of rep loss. But as of 411, I believe, according to SC Haulers, which is a great channel, guys, please go check him out. He let me know that rep loss is not a factor anymore. However, there is a structure to how your pay is affected. So from 0 to 24% completion, like the amount of quantity of cargo you've turned in, you don't get any pay. From 25 to 49%, you get about 25% pay. From 50% to 74%, you get 50% pay. And then finally, from 75% to 99%, you get 75% of the overall pay to the mission. But again, there's no rep loss anymore. So that is awesome, because that was the biggest drawback to hitting submit when you didn't fully turn in a mission, or at least cross that 75% threshold. So big thanks to SC Haulers for that information. Now everybody can rest a little bit easier when it comes to missions that decide to get a little problematic on us. Now, I also recognize from some comments in the video that not everybody's got the Whole Sea or the bigger cargo ships, like I said. So I just want to address that. Be like, yeah, there's a little bit of big ship privilege for me when it comes to using, the Cats and C2s and Whole Seas for this stuff, given my time in game and revenue earned and all that. But one of my goals here on the channel is to help you guys, especially new players, to get that grind started so you can get up to these big ships. I have several playlists on the channel, the more important ones in this regard being my guides on hauling, bounty hunting, a lot of stuff. So I've been making these videos for a little while, and I plan to make more based on feedback, comments, things maybe I haven't addressed, or things that I could possibly address better. So please check those out. Let me know what you guys think. And sort of an unexpected tip here, that orbital node there looks to be really low in the atmosphere. We might be okay, but there is a chance that you will actually bump into sort of a hard-coated surface and it will not go well. So I'm actually going to unnavigate or remove my navigation so I can find a different route to get to Seraphim. But all that's to say, guys, that I get it. I get the frustration that might come from, a content creator talking about how great hauling is when they've got a ship you don't have yet. Totally understand. So I hope you guys find these guides, these videos helpful on your journey to get to this level so that you can enjoy doing these missions. Now, as we're cruising into Seraphim Station here, I want to make sure you guys know that I typically do live stream Star Citizen Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from about noon to 1500 or 3 p.m. my time here in the Eastern United States. And that is a fantastic opportunity for people to come in and ask me questions about all this stuff and actually interact with me directly in real time if you're having troubles with the Whole Sea, because I also acknowledge a lot of comments where people are having a hard time getting these Whole Sea missions to work. And that is the bread and butter of what this video is really going to show you guys. Now, before we get into that, I do want to take a moment to show you guys a tool that I use that'll be fantastic for helping y'all find ships, as well as components and other things that'll help you get your ship set up the way that you want. This is Erkul.games. The link to this site will be in the description of this video, so check it out. Right over here, you can come to the ship that you want to look for. Say you're curious about getting the Misc Hull A. You can find it right here, along with a list of its components, its weapons, everything that you need, and you can even swap them out. You can see the stats of different quantum drives. Not only components, though, you can actually look at where to buy ships themselves. For example, here we're showing that you can get the Whole A at Lorville's new deal for 1.6 million. I actually got mine from Teaches at Levski for 1.7. So this is a fantastic tool that I've been using for years, and I highly recommend it to everybody, especially new players. Play around with this, ask questions, and work toward that ship of your dreams. Now, in a similar vein, you also have the ability to rent ships. You can rent the Raft, you can rent the Hull A. You can actually get your hands on some of these better cargo ships faster. However, you are locked to the stock components, so you can't put in a faster quantum drive, upgrade your shields, weapons, any of that, from anywhere from like 30 to 70,000 AUEC per day. I go over this in some of my guide videos, so again, check those out, because that can be a way to sort of leapfrog into getting your hands on one of these ships for real. 1.6 million to, I think, 3 or 4 million for the Raft. I did notice that Taurus is not available for rental anymore at New Deal, so I'm wondering, or Vantage Rentals, sorry, over near New Deal at Tisa Spaceport. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Now, contrary to what I thought, the Hull C is currently the only ship that can utilize the auto-load cargo grid function of these hauling missions. I thought the Hull A could, but I found out in my last video that I recorded that is not true. In the spirit of making sure that I really hit all points here, we're going to look at two things in our options menu real quick. Now, this can be bound to your keyboard, or maybe you have it on your flight sticks, but we're going to look here at how to request the actual loading grid, and also how to go between coupled and decoupled flight to make sure that you're sitting still. Now, you're going to go to key bindings and then advanced controls, regardless of what interface you're using, and this will all be under flight movement. You'll scroll down until you see the decoupled modes as far as that goes. You want to make sure when you go into the cargo grid itself that you go into coupled mode, and it'll be lit up blue when you are coupled, which will try to keep your ship still. You might just have to fight a little bit of drift, which we'll talk about in a second, or if it's blacked out, your ship will just kind of keep moving using that microgravity, that inertia, forcing you to counter it yourself. Scrolling down a bit further, once you pass the landing and VTOL stuff, you're going to actually see request landing, and then separately request cargo loading. This is the option to bring up that blue cargo grid you see me using with the Hull C. By default, it should be right Alt-N when you're near the station. I have it bound to my flight stick. In previous patches, I've had to sometimes mash that 2, 3, 4 times to get the grid to pop up. Keep in mind, though, that now there's ATC voice interaction, so that will also cause them to repeat themselves over and over. So try to get it with as little toggle as possible, if that makes sense. We're going to go ahead and request cargo loading.
Thanks for contacting Cargo Services, checking for an open slot, sending you a deck assignment.
And there we go. We got that one on the first try. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's okay. This is where one of my biggest tips probably comes in here, guys, as we slowly cruise over, is server performance. I typically try to put myself in lower population servers. As an example, using the key to bring up the information here in the top right, this shard is the Asia Pacific Southeast Shard 20, and we've got 220 people in here, so it's a third of a full server.
Please proceed to assigned landing bay.
Server FPS is sitting around 30, which is capped at the max. That's really healthy. On that note, another tip is add as many friends as you can, including me. My in-game username is CAPT_Deadwake, or CPT_Deadwake. You can type that in and actually add me as a friend, and then I'm often in these low pop servers. Use me to get into a low pop server. Add a bunch of other friends too. I'm always looking to my friends list and seeing what this
complete. Have a pleasant stay.
And seeing what the server counts are, so I can try to get into the lowest one, and of course your region will kind of have some impact as well.
I'm tracking you. Go ahead and get into position to get your cargo transferred.
Okay, so I'm going to let us sort of drift here to show you an example. Right over here, this is again where you can see whether you are coupled or decoupled. So we are decoupled right now, which is why our ship continues to drift. Put yourself in coupled mode. It acts as a parking brake. But now, if you guys notice, use the grid. Use the actual grid to see if you're moving. We should be stopped. We are not, though. Put like one of your spindles by the grid lines. You can see that we are shuffling forward ever so slightly. If that's the case, I'll just give it a slight reverse throttle.
Hold tight. We'll start to transfer your cargo.
Now we're starting to transfer cargo, because now we're registering as sitting still. Sometimes you have to do a little stick wiggle, and sometimes one input isn't enough. You might have to jiggle like strafe up or down or left or right, but use the grid to see if you're really sitting still. Now, I don't know if we'll experience this today. We'll see. But if you do that, and there's still nothing happening on your screen, it's still saying that you're not moving, or sorry, that you're not still, but you know for a fact you are, because you're like looking at the sides to see if you're moving in relation to anything around you, that's fine. Hit the exit seat button. Get out of your seat. And I bet 9 times out of 10, that will start your cargo transfer. It's a little weird, but what happens when you get out of your pilot seat? On the back end of the game, your avatar is like resynchronizing with the shard you're in. So basically, it's just a desync problem. You're a little bit out of alignment with what's going on with back-end communication. I'm no expert in this. I just know this to be the case. So when you get out of your seat, you resync, and it should work. I don't know if we'll encounter an issue where both of those don't work today, but if you do, the third option is to go away from the station, over 10 kilometers, to where it actually revokes your cargo grid box. Then you come back in and try to get another one. Now, Seraphim is not a good example of the next bit of advice because the cargo grid is kind of in the middle of the overall station. But in other stations like Everest, Bygenie, Port Tressler, I try to go to the edge of the cargo grid furthest away from the habitation hub, which I'll show you when we get to Bygenie Point. In my experience, shout out to Obsidian in our Discord with the All-Star group, he noticed better consistency in getting deliveries and having less issues with the cargo grid at that further box because it will spawn a box in relation to where your ship is. So if you're close to the inside when you spawn or call the box,
Cargo's been transferred, safe, flying.
it'll spawn it there. But if you wait till you pass and you're at the edge, it'll spawn it at the edge. Again, I'll show you guys that as we get over to Bygenie. So I've come out of decoupled mode because I just like to fly everywhere decoupled. That's just how I am. Now I've got some notes and I'm going to try to hit everything as concisely as possible.
And please visit again.
So there's a lot of weirdness going on with ATC right now. You're going to get a lot of interference from like the old school one to the new cargo one talking to you and creating new boxes and all. But as long as you made sure that the grid came back and it said cargo transfer complete, you're fine to move on to your next destination. And I'll make sure to highlight that when we go to Bygenie. But don't feel... See how I keep getting interrupted by ATC? It's frustrating. You guys can also just go into audio settings and turn down the audio for speech if it gets really annoying. If that just...
Thank you. And please visit again.
See, if that annoys the hell out of you, just come here and just turn it off. It's totally cool. I like having it on because it's a good feedback of what's happening in the background, but it can get frustrating. Apologies if this is a little jumbled. I've got some notes over here to my right, things that were mentioned in comments and things that I wanted to cover for this video, so it might be a little sloppy. I do apologize. I'm trying to address everything I can, though, and please, if I miss anything or you have other questions, hit me up in the comments, guys. I love it. And anybody who knows the answer in the comments, just like our community here in Star Citizen, help them out. Now, in today's example, I'm trying to induce some problems by having these stacked missions. I got all of these before we even started, but I also made sure that we're not over capacity. That's another really important thing. With this method that I showed you guys, a quantum route planning method, if you're not careful with these quantities and you get out of order, you can kind of induce problems that you might not have had. So just make sure, pull out a calculator on your computer, on your phone, whatever you got to do to just make sure you're below that 4608 capacity. And if you start seeing boxes like load in weird, like perpendicular or T, like in ways that aren't normal for the whole sea, you might have to get out and manually move some stuff around. Maybe free up a spindle so that when you're auto loading, the game doesn't have to think or plan around where boxes are, because it tries to. I've seen it, but it can get jumbled up and confused and cause problems. So if boxes start loading on really weird, maybe wait till the loading process is kind of done and then pull away from the station and maybe hop out real quick and just reorganize them. And if you like cargo hauling as much as I do, I'm sure that's not going to really bother you. I like being more involved, but it can be, annoying when you just want the thing to work like it's supposed to. So Bygenie really stands out by showing you the hangar and habitat zone being that sort of saucer ring section, and then this whole area over here being the cargo section. Now, if you call your box too early, it'll spawn sort of over here in this area. So hopefully you guys can see that mouse. What I like to do is head over back here. And once I'm back here, I call my box so it forces the grid to kind of spawn toward the back end. And that seems to give better consistent results. I haven't broken it down to a real database science yet, but based off of anecdotal experience from other people in my org and my own, calling the cargo grid further away from the habitat area and where all the players seem to be does tend, for me and for them, to work better. I've seen some comments on it, which is a lot of fun, that some other folks use the turn and burn method, which is really cool when it comes to space flight, to be more efficient with your slowdown, because our strongest engines are in the back. It's another reason that I do decoupled flight. So now my velocity indicator here, this little 3-point piece, is showing us where we're going. So I will rotate the ship and look at the retrograde indicator, which has a little cross in the middle of it. And once we get to that ATC sort of zone, see, here it is. We're lining up with it. This is our direct retrograde. We're going to line up with it perfectly and see where we're at. And then we can do retro burn, expanse style, using these big engines to slow down faster. You're carrying actual mass on these ships, so the more you have on your ship, the longer it's going to take to slow down. And I admittedly came into that a little late, but that's also to show that I get past this cargo grid before I call the box. We're going to call it now.
Thank you. And please visit again.
See what we've got.
We call it again.
Thanks for contacting cargo services. Checking for an open slot.
Still burning.
Got a deck assignment for you.
And there we go. We got our deck assignment right in front of us. Now we are going forward. We've canceled out all of our velocity, and we're not far from this grid, which is perfect. So we're going to go ahead and get in here and start getting the next mission loaded up. I am also going to go ahead and set course for Everest next, because we're picking up the next mission to go to Port Tressler since we're stacking them. And if I can, I'll get sort of pre-aligned to where we're going to jump as we come into this box. I was also asked if you need to be parallel or lined up a specific way in these cargo grids. You don't. I don't care how many people tell you that you do. You don't. Just point blank. You can be angled in any weird way possible as long as you're inside this grid. Don't worry about lining up. What triggers your on-load offload is you being still.
Welcome to the loading area. If you get into position, we can get started.
It's you being still and good communication with the background server. So like you'll see, we are lined up with Hurston. We are completely wonky in our box here. I'm going to go coupled my parking brake to stop moving. See how it bounced us back? We're drifting backwards now. Stick wiggle. Little forward wiggle. Hands off to see.
Start to transfer your cargo.
And there's the vocal indicator.
Be good to go.
Okay, so weirdly enough, we got a transfer complete with one box, so we're getting some weird stuff happening. Let's not panic. Let's see what's going on here. So it delivered 5 and says complete. This in the past has been one of those things that's been a big problem. And let's see if we can troubleshoot this together. We're going to try to work around this because we also need to pick up cargo here, which we started to do. I noticed that. See, that's what that 8 SKU box is there. I'm going to call cargo again to see what happens. Wait a minute. No, I'm not. We're going to leave first to avoid impound.
Warning, you are blocking an active flight lane.
And this actually works out because it got rid of our cargo grid. So now when we call one, it should be a fresh grid. In fact, another thing that I will do sometimes for this workaround is try to get a grid in a different spot. So I want to, if I can, I want to try to trigger it to not give me the grid we were just at. So I'm going to rotate and come to this other side of the cargo area to see if I can get a different grid. This is good. I wanted things to break so that we could go through this together.
Sending you a deck assignment.
And yeah, we got a new grid right here. Okay, let's see what happens. I am going to align myself to the jump that we want. That's the only alignment that I care about. Because again, how you're aligned in this box doesn't mean a thing.
If you get into position, we can get started.
Alright, canceling out my velocity. Gonna go back into coupled mode to stop, which we're not actually stopping. There we go. Are we rebounding? Are we moving? I'm looking at the grid. I'm checking. It looks clear. I'm gonna seat check.
Alright. Cargo's being transferred.
So there's the indicator. That showed you because it was not giving us anything until I got out of my seat. So we're probably loading now. Or did that trigger offload? Sweet. Awesome. Alright, so getting the new grid managed to trigger offload, which is what we want. So we're actually getting this mission to complete instead of just delivering the little bit that it had. Now we'll see if it starts to auto load. If not, we just hit the call button again to trigger that. Worst case, if there's any kind of hang up, you can use the external freight elevators to drop off or pick up whatever you need. Sure, it may add a little time, but it is a good fallback.
Alright, you're loaded up. Have a good one.
As expected, I'm going to call it before we get any impounds.
Alright. Cargo's being transferred.
And again, all I did was right Alt-N or the keybind on my stick to request cargo loading again to get the mission to start loading, even though it already kind of partially loaded the processed food that's on that dorsal spindle there. And it's actually in kind of a weird place. It's not all the way at the bottom, so I might actually just move that down one myself to prevent confusion from ATC or whoever's loading. See? Bingo! There it is. That's why. This is perfect. We're seeing all the weird stuff that happens. That is not how that box should load, and it just totally jacked up how you could easily use that spindle to put a bunch of 32s on it. So I am going to manually change that. I'm going to move that because that is not what you want. That doesn't mean I'm going to interrupt the loading process because it has gotten smart enough with what they've done to adapt and push things around. So I'm going to let this load and then I'll fix whatever problem that is.
Warning, you are blocking an active flight lane. Please vacate the vicinity.
Oh boy, sometimes this happens. Watch your timer. This has happened once or twice to me where the impound starts to count down as you're loading cargo. It's not great. If we start getting down too low, I am going to boost away to prevent impound, sorry, and then probably call the box again. I don't think that calling it now will get rid of impound.
Thanks for contacting cargo services, checking for an open slot.
Initiating ship storage procedure. For your safety, please
Okay.
vacate the area.
I'm interrupting cargo loading and boosting away to try to prevent... Let's get that leaving restricted area. Alright, so we got as much as we could. Now I'm immediately slowing down because I'm probably just going to back up right into another cargo bay. Oh, it's still loading us. Oh, this is weird, dude. This is really, really, really weird. All right, I'm full retro thrust now just to slow us down. I think what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to hop out and move that box just so that we can get past that confusion, the potential ATC confusion. All right, so first thing, helmet on. Always check, verify. We're not in a spot where we're going to get impounded at all. And you do want to make sure your ship's not moving. This is one of the reasons my ship got the nickname the Runaway Bride, because she was still moving and would like run away from me. That's why she's called Maggie C, Maggie Carpenter. All right, we're good. We're gonna fix this, and this is the primary reason this happened. Move this down all the way, and then we're gonna rotate this here, and then that should be all right. Ship's tractor beams suck at rotating cargo, at least the big ones like the Hull C and the Caterpillar. It's faster just to use your tractor rifle. The Raft, the Taurus, the Golem Ox, they have awesome tractor beams. The Nomad as well, don't want to forget that. But the Hull C, the Caterpillar, the tractor beams are just awful, man. They do not have the balls to rotate big boxes like that, and I hope they fix that. But there we go. We've got that orientation the way we want. I'm just going to go ahead and call the grid from here.
Thanks for contacting cargo services, checking for an open slot.
There it is. All right, and it's over there. Cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and move that direction. See, guys, this goes to show that even I have problems. You know, you got to work through them. We're going to get kind of lined up here. I'm going to go ahead and go coupled, come to a stop. We want to make sure that we are in the box.
Welcome to the loading area. If you get into position, we can get started.
All right, there we go. We got our stop to transfer notification.
Hold tight. We'll start to transfer your cargo. Whoa, got an issue. Double check your position and that the loading area is clear. Hold tight. We'll start to transfer your cargo. I'm getting an error on your cargo. Check your position and make sure the area is clear and we can continue.
Okay, so that's a good example that we probably have all the cargo we need. Now, we got interrupted by the weird impound scenario, but it kept loading us up. Now, we're probably full. We're probably full. If you are full and you request loading, it will go into a sort of infinite loop of starting and stopping where you'll get the ATC voices that'll say, whoa, hold up, okay, you're good. Whoa, hold up, okay, you're good. That's another indicator that you have everything you need, but it can be annoying to listen to. I'm going to take a quick second just to check the EFE to make sure we have everything, because that's another way. Sir, okay, I get it. Some of you might be like, oh my God, this is going to add so much time to what I'm doing. You're not always going to have these problems, but if you do, what I'm trying to show is you have solutions. You have ways to verify, to check, to work around these issues. And as a person who enjoys the hauling in this game, I don't really care that it adds time to what I'm doing, because I enjoy this game loop, so it's not really any sweat off my back. I'm just happy that now I've got a way to address this. I don't have to dump my ship. I don't have to throw it away. I don't have to give up, pissed off and annoyed. I can actually solve the issue, figure out what's wrong, and continue on with my hauling career. Alright, so as long as you're totally in front of the external freight elevator, you should be okay. You're going to hear that kind of ticking in the background because the game is still trying to load stuff on, and it's confused, probably because we are good. We're probably full. If not, we can do this to finish the process. Now, I still think it's just a good habit to close up your ship anytime you're not in there so people can't, you know, hop in and steal it from you. Head on a swivel, my friends. Now, I don't see anything. I'm gonna drop the elevator just so I can actually look at this side, but I think we're clear. I think we have everything on board. You can even click on the mission tab. You can click on the container tab. There's nothing here. So we're good, guys. We just got our smoothies. That's our actual inventory. So we're good. I am going to bring that up for the next player, and we're going to move on to Everest Harbor. So essentially what happened there, as you saw, is the station finished loading us as we were moving away from getting impounded. So it was just kind of lucky that it finished and we're good to go. Although we still needed to double check. You can risk going based off of that feedback from ATC with that sort of loop that was created, but I like to double check. Now, I'm going to interrupt my travel real quick just to talk about something super fast here, which is Dogleg. This is part of the pirate avoidance measures, just to make sure that you're not going to get grabbed by players with nefarious intent. Doglegging just means you don't go point to point. You interrupt your travel by going into a different direction. The pirates only have about a 20-kilometer radius, or a 20-kilometer diameter, however it's set up, to snare you out of quantum. 5 to 10 seconds of traveling in a different direction is all you need. You do not need to go all the way to McL4 or wherever to do a dogleg sort of travel. You just need to go enough. 5 to 10 seconds is more than enough, and then continue on your route, and you will be safe from a pirate snare. So now that we finish our dogleg maneuver, we're going to go ahead and set course back to Hurston Dynamics. Now I'm going to take this second to talk about the hauling companies themselves. So we have a new hauling company that's entered the family that was in my Ling family hauling video that might actually come out after this, because I think these tips might be more important. But you'll find them in the Interstellar side. The only Covalex I've seen in Interstellar is actually these master rank. Redwind line haul and Ling family, I think, are going to be the bulk of Interstellar hauling in future updates. I think Redwind probably being the main Interstellar hauling mission category. And I think that's also where we're going to see a return to those big 700k plus Interstellar missions. You heard it from me. I think either Ling family or Redwind line haul. Redwind line haul is where my money is. That we're going to see the big missions coming as we get to higher rep with Redwind. Now, Ling family and Redwind operate out of typically Pyro and Levski. You can see Ling family here. Ling family is dealing with like souvenirs, spirits, some processed food, stims, but also like audio-visual equipment, souvenirs, party favors. It's a different kind of hauling, but it is limited right now to rookie. Same with Redwind line haul, at least in the Interstellar category. You're only going to see rookie level missions. So I would do these until you hit junior with Ling family and Redwind, but then I would wait for maybe 4.5 or 4.6, whatever patch is coming that is going to bring the higher tiers, because you will not see junior, member, experienced, or anything with these missions yet. CIG is trying not to break things more than they already have, so these other missions will be coming in future updates. The only way you can really grind Redwind properly is by going to Pyro system. That's where you will actually see junior, member, experience, and such for Redwind line haul. I do plan to have videos coming out with Redwind in the future. It is frustrating, and there are certain things that you want to avoid, like potential wildlife habitats, multiple pickup and drop-offs. On that note here, when you're doing this quantum route planning stuff, the missions we've been doing, they've been point to point, just stacked. I would still avoid multiple pickup and drop-off where you can, because those tend to break more than your point-to-point missions do. Now at Everest Harbor, you can already see I'm heading toward the back of the cargo grid. That is just my habit now. I am not going towards the main habitat area, and there are some external elevators over here. It's almost like Port Tressler and Everest Harbor combined with this. It's kind of crazy. Your auto-loading is only going to be at this big main section though. Over here is another little section that honestly, that's the size section I think should be at Lagrange points, but that's another conversation. But you're always going to come over here for the auto-loading with the whole C. This is going to be where using your calculator to make sure you're not over capacity is important, because we're about to fill up the rest of this ship. And I know because I checked my math already that we're going to be at 4457 SCU, and this thing caps at 4608. Alright, so I am coupled now, lined up with my next target, hands off sticks, looks like we're still, and we're loading. Alright, let's see how this goes. But yeah, we should have enough room to fit all of this, and since we fixed that dorsal spindle, it's loading. Will it load on top of the 32 that I put there, though? That's a little strange. We might have a little manual labor ahead of us to get a few boxes on board if it doesn't properly utilize that. So it's sort of adaptively loading around us. Let's see what happens. All right, it is trying to fill up that slot.
Transfer complete. You're good to go.
Ooh, we were close. We have almost got a completely full hull C. Transfer complete, good to go is always good, and you can verify here on the bar that it says complete right here, not transfer or anything else. We got a little bit off drift, maybe planetary rotation, I don't know, but we're going to go ahead and quantum travel to Microtech, because now we're just going to drop everything off at Port Tressler. Real quick moment to address the frustration that comes when things don't work and how you might end your session. I feel like I need to do a little public service announcement for all of us haulers out there. If you're just at your wit's end, I get it. The frustration of dealing with this sometimes, if things just aren't working and you're just like, screw it, I'm done, please go away from the station before you decide to terminate your session. And by that I mean if you want to self-destruct or crash into something or leave, log out, whatever it is, please don't do it at our cargo grids. Because I get it, you know, I get it. But the next guy who comes in, potentially hitting or having to dodge these boxes that are strewn everywhere from a ship self-destruct, it's good for all of us, you know, to have a little bit of etiquette next to the cargo station. What I like to do personally when that happens, if I'm tired of it and I don't have the energy to offload manually or whatever, I will set course away from the station, decoupled as fast as I can, and then I will actually get out of my seat and back to menus. And the reason is because when you log back in, you're going to be at the recent station that you were typically closest to or landed at, and then you can just claim your ship there. You don't have to deal with blowing it up, with throwing cargo everywhere. In fact, it'll all be on that ship that'll eventually get cleaned up by the server anyway, and I think that's better for everybody. So take that as a tip. You know, if you want to get out of there and not deal with your whole seat, you got to claim it anyways. If you're just done with it, go ahead and set course away from the station as fast as you can. Take 10 seconds to full burn away from that cargo area, and then just back to menus. And then log back in and claim your whole seat real quick before you're done for the day. That way, next time you log in, or later that session, it's ready for you. So I hope that helps a little bit there. Okay, here's the final tip for pirate avoidance. Since it wants us to use an orbital maneuver node, what I would actually do here is cancel your navigation and try to use one of Microtech's moons. That, or you could even quantum travel to New Babbage to get around to that side and then head up from there to deliver. Although with a full hull C, I don't think I would go into atmosphere. Alright, so what I'm going to do real quick, because I've got Calliope right here, is I'm going to do a partial jump and then turn around to head to Port Tressler. And it's just a blip. It's real quick. I'm going to use my engine boost to rotate faster because, man, she's heavy. And perfect. With that trick, we avoided the orbital nodes, which you can see all beautifully on the screen there. Avoided any pirate snares that might be waiting for us. And we go straight to Port Tressler. I think I've pretty much hit all the points that I had written down and what I had seen in the comments of the videos. I hope this video wasn't too long. There was a lot to say, a lot of advice and points to give. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and please, again, get it out to all the friends that you can think of that like Star Citizen or hauling or want to know more about how this works. I do have more videos planned for how to make some pretty good money with the smaller ships too. Stuff for Red Wind, Line Haul, and Pyro. And the more comments and feedback I get from you guys, the more ideas I have for videos to make.
I've got you into the loading area, get into place, and we'll start loading your cargo.
Also, again, feel free to add me, CPT_Deadweek. That way you can also use me to get into sessions. Alright, I am checking to make sure we are not moving. It does look like we are still, and nothing is happening. So, pop quiz, what do we do next? Hopefully you guys have said seat check. Hop out of your seat.
Hold tight. Start to transfer your cargo.
There it is. The grid is disappearing, and we are starting our offload. That right there should solve most of y'all's problems. I had a lot of people saying they couldn't get the grids to work, they couldn't get the registry you being still. That should be what does it. Make sure you're coupled. Make sure you're actually still. Look at the station, look at the grid to make sure you're not drifting. If that doesn't work, seat check. Just hop up, resync, and it should function. And we are offloading all these goodies and making a cool like 500K in the process. And in danger of repeating myself, add all the friends you can, guys. Join on me if I'm in a low pop server, or just join on me anyway. Even if we're not gaming together, playing together, or I'm busy with the org or recording videos, you can still use me as a way to get into potentially a lower pop game. Servers tend to drop in population as they've been active for a really long time and people have left, and the game puts them into other servers. And now I've seen too that low pop servers can end up getting repopulated. I was on one that had 70 people, and then before I knew it, it was back up to 600. So we are at 242 now, which still isn't bad. You know, it's about a third of a full server. Server FPS is one of the things that I look at on here, and it's really hard to see behind all this text, but it's kind of up here. It says server FPS. It's around 30, which is really good. I am using R_display info space 2 here on the screen. You can see it over there to the left. That is how you get the display information I am seeing up in the right, and you can do like 1 to 4. And if you go to 0, backspace and just go to 0 and hit enter.
Cargo's been transferred. Safe flying.
Okay, 1's been transferred. It's still dropping off the rest though. But yeah, you use the little tilde key next to the 1 on your number pad to bring this up. And that's where you enter that information to check on your server and performance. And it does look like everything dropped off. All right, guys, I think that is it for today. I wanted to keep this around maybe 10 to 15 minutes, so I apologize if it ended up going quite a bit over that, but I hope you found this helpful, and if you have any questions, comments, all the above, just put them down in the video below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.